Hi, I'm Allison, and welcome to a Move Smart Boomerang production of the Rhomboid push-up. So rhomboid push-ups, for those of you who are not familiar with the process, involve coming onto your hands and knees, finding a nicely untucked pelvis. So we're trying not to do a big rounding of your butt. We're also trying to find a little bit of support through your ribs so you're not untucking your butt and dumping your ribs down at the same time, and letting your head come and hang down nice and easy. And then you are sliding your shoulder blades, letting them ease towards each other, towards your spine, and then pressing your shoulder blades apart, widening your rhomboids. Inhale, allow your shoulder blades to glide together. Exhale, press your shoulder blades apart. Seems pretty simple, right? Very straightforward. Actually, it can be quite straightforward, or we can make it really beautifully complex and layer skill upon skill. So we're going to go back to a couple of little details on our first version. So you're going to have your fingers spread nice and wide, middle fingers pointing forward and thumbs pointing towards each other. Allow for your pelvis to untuck a little bit to the best of your ability. Find a little bit of support here and let your head hang down. Inhale and allow your shoulder blades to slide together. And then as you blow out, it's kind of like you're blowing your chest up away from the floor as you press your shoulder blades a little bit away from each other, and it's like you're wrapping them down towards your underarm rather than up towards your ears, right? So we want to avoid this kind of motion just because it's not super comfy and it's not getting quite as effectively into the muscles that we really want to approach. Slide down and slide back up. And you can take note of things like, how much pressure are you feeling on your hands and where on your hands? Are you feeling any work here in your pecs, in the fronts of your arms and shoulders? Are you feeling anything happening between your shoulder blades? And determine, is it more challenging for you to let your shoulder blades glide together? So if you tend to have your shoulder blades wide on your back as a habit, this will be more challenging. Or is it harder for you to find the spread wide, which will be the case if you tend to keep your shoulder blades a little bit closer together. So let's take a look at that for a moment as I kick stuff. So this is what it looks like if I start to move my shoulder blades around, and I'm pretty mobile. So if I slide my shoulder blades together, you can see I'm also moving my arms. They are connected. I'm trying not to lift my shoulder blades too much towards my ears, although they can do that too, with or without a rounding of your spine. And as I move my arms in different directions, my shoulder blades actually kind of rotate as I lift my arms. And typically it's going to be different from side to side, amazingly. And sometimes you can just move around just for the heck of it. It doesn't have to be a specific direction, and sometimes you can see a nice little wing. So there are all these different movements that your shoulder blades can make, and most of us have a default or a habit of having our shoulder blades quite close together or having our shoulder blades fairly far apart. And what I love about the rhomboid push-up is that it addresses both of those things. So rhomboid push-up 5 ways. We're going to start with just moving your shoulder blades. So you can sit, you can stand, you can sit on a chair, you can do whatever you want here. You're going to bring your hands forward and flex your wrists so that your palms are facing the wall in front of you, which is going to put some work in here, which is the opposite of when you're down on the floor, right? And the floor is creating that bend for you. It's passive. And you're going to slide your shoulder blades apart without moving anything else. And you're going to slide your shoulder blades together. So now you really have to use your muscles to do the pull together part. This is changing which part of the rhomboid push-up is active and which part of it is passive. And I'm going to show it to you from the back. So imagine I am on my hands and knees. This would be the part where I'm letting my chest drape down towards the floor, but now I have to use my muscles, and then as I slide my arms away from each other, that would be the part where I'm pressing my chest away from the floor, trying to avoid hiking my arms towards. So that would be one way of approaching a rhomboid push-up, is to do it actively with nothing helping you, with your arms out in front. If you have a tube, this is an awesome version. If you don't have a tube, which is going to add a nice little balance challenge, you could just use a rolled up towel, you could use a bolster, rolled up yoga mat, something that's going to get you up off the floor. So you come down onto the floor, move your ponytail out of the way, turn your palms flat, same as they would be if you were on the floor. And now you can really feel your shoulder blades moving away from and towards the bolster. You press away and then you slide back down. As you do the slide back down part where you can feel your shoulder blades kind of hugging the tube, see what happens also with your rib cage. Do you get a sense that your ribs are popping up towards the ceiling as you bring your hands closer to the floor? And if so, see if you can just find some nice stability through your torso. And slide up and down here. And see how that feels different. Maybe you get more into your pecs because you really need to move your arms sort of from your chest as well as from your rhomboids and your serratus here. And slide back down. And 2 more. And down. And spread your shoulder blades. And you're really thinking about moving towards your superstar underarms, right? If you were to imagine a beautiful gold star right here at the bottom of the back of your underarms, that's what you're reaching up more than the tops of your shoulders. And then you can come down from there. You could, if you wanted, add some load to your up and down version by adding a bolster or some blocks or some books, just something that's going to provide a little bit of extra load from above, and you could do this on the floor or you could do it on your tube. Sort of a variation on the same theme. So you can come down from there. The next thing that you could do would be to lean against a wall. So once you've put all your weight down this way, that's a certain kind of load. But if you were to go and lean against the wall, then it would be different. So if I turn to the wall, you're not going to be able to see me. So I could be here, putting my hands up against something, slide the shoulder blades together, slide the shoulder blades apart. Now you've got this opportunity, if you're standing, to do this with a nice open hip. Sliding in and sliding out. I don't know if I can do that. I can totally do that here. So fingers spread wide, open through the hips, shoulder blades glide together, shoulder blades press apart. Same motion, different position, different load. So all the same tips still apply, keeping a little bit of space here above your shoulders, keeping that sense of reaching between your baby finger, the back of your elbow, and the back of your underarm into your superstar underarms. Couple more in this position. And then you come down from there. So the next version, we're going to start to put a few more parameters in place in terms of external rotation of your arms in the shoulder sockets. Up until now, we've just kind of thought about hand position and let your elbows face wherever they want to face. But one of the ways we make this significantly more challenging is to go into internal or external rotation of your arm in your shoulder socket. So if you look here, you can see that my elbow pits are pointing in kind of on an angle. That's sort of my natural place where my body wants to go. So if I bend my elbows and pivot them around, so I'm reaching my elbows towards the sort of the midline of my legs. Now this is way, way, way more work in here, but I need to let my hands come a little bit up off the floor here at the base of my index fingers. Otherwise, it's going to be uncomfortable for my hands. So if you want to focus on external rotation of your arm bone and your shoulder, you may need to allow for a little bit of play in your hands and wrists, and that's okay. If you can get them all down flat and even and you're happy with that, awesome, but you work within the parameters of your tissues. So that's what we're going to do this time. Nice, long, stable legs in terms of your thigh bones coming straight down. Untuck your pelvis, find a little support for your ribs, And then bend your elbows, pivot them around. So you're reaching the backs of your elbows as close towards center as is possible for you. And then slide your shoulder blades apart and let them come back together. And you may find that your range is much smaller and that the work is way harder here. So you can think about kind of pulling your upper arm bones towards each other a little bit. That's going to increase your pec work and the pressing away. You can think of this wrap around from your superstar underarms to the backs of your elbows, spiraling around towards your baby finger. So there's this really nice kind of barbershop pull wrapping around your arms. And your shoulder blades are going to glide differently when you are in external rotation as compared to when you are in internal rotation, because your arm bones, your collarbones, and your shoulder blades are all connected. And then you can do one more like this and press up and away. And then we're going to add one more level. So I'm using a bolster, but you could use yoga blocks or cushions or a stack of books or a small footstool, whatever you're going to use to bring your knees up. So now we're changing the angle again and creating another layer of load, right? Because your leg bones are shorter than your arm bones. So initially I was on a bit of an angle. Now I'm more parallel to the floor. This changes the ab work a little bit. So you're going to do the same thing. Untuck and let your feet relax. Find a little support for the base of your ribs. Let your head come down. Fingers spread wide. I'm going to add the external rotation of my upper arm bones, so my elbow pits are pointing forward. You can do that or not as you wish. And then press away from the floor. Your chest lifts and your shoulder blades wrap around towards the bottoms of your underarms. And then you release and your shoulder blades glide towards your spine. It's not a force, it's not a pull, it's just a really gentle slide. And you exhale to press away. You slide back in and you exhale to press away. Now, for some people, it's very hard to determine where your shoulder blades are in terms of this moving process. It can be really handy to put something between your shoulder blades. So here I have a super fancy tool, which would be a little Ziploc bag full of dried peas. You could use a bean bag, you could use a flax bag, excuse me, bag of rice. Just something that you can then put between your shoulder blades so that when you're coming up and down, you can feel it. And it's kind of creating another, like you could feel the tube when you were doing it lying down on the tube, and you could feel your shoulder blades moving relative to the tube. This is going to give you something to feel as you press it up towards the ceiling and slide back down towards the ground. It can also kind of help to avoid the temptation to turn this into more of a cat-cow shape, which it's not really intended to be. So you're trying to maintain this line nice and stable and still, and you're targeting the movement wherever your drapey thing is. So now, take a pause. I'll wait. Go find something that you can put on your back. And then try this again. Fingers spread wide. Find your pivot, right? So that you're sliding around into your external rotation. And then feeling an external proprioceptive tool to help your nervous system identify what's going on with your shoulder blades, and is it them that are moving, or are they staying pretty still and it's your spine that's moving? That can be really helpful. In the process of doing all of this, hopefully you've been able to determine which is your default. Do your shoulder blades go wide and it's hard to get them to release into center, or they tend to live kind of together, and your task is to work on allowing them to travel sideways, right? To find some width. Knowing that, you know, it's both of those defaults are fine. It's just gonna change where you get the most information and where you have the most potential for change. So there you go. Rhomboid push-up 5 ways. You can play with any or all of them in any or all of those combinations. If your hands get a little bit sore doing this, or a lot sore, you could try doing the hand prep class first. And I'll include a link down to that below, or a click over in a corner somewhere here. And that should help. If you would like to know more about the anatomy of how the shoulder blades work relative to the spine and kind of how they're set up, I'll include a link to that video down below as well, or maybe over here. So if you like this, that's great. Let me know what else you would like to have a tutorial on, and I'll see you next time.